All right, let's talk about that fascinating and, let's be honest, sometimes super frustrating gap between knowing what you're supposed to do and actually, being able to do it. We're going to explore that journey our brains take when learning a new skill.
You know that feeling, right? Where you've read the manual, you've watched all the videos, you could probably even teach a class on the theory. But then, when the pressure's on, your brain and your body just don't connect. It's a universal experience, and it turns out there's a really good reason for it deep inside our brains. And this is a perfect way to think about it. On one side, you have the kind of knowledge that lets you explain in detail how a car's brake system works, the hydraulics, the rotors, the whole shebang. But on the other side, you have the pure instinct to slam on those brakes in a split second. These feel different because they are fundamentally different types of knowledge. So what's going on here? Well, to get it, you've got to understand that our brain doesn't just have one big bucket for information. It's more like it has two separate toolkits. Think of it like a library right next to a workshop. So first up, in the library, you've got what scientists call declarative knowledge. The easiest way to remember this is knowing that. This is your brain's encyclopedia. It's all the facts and figures you can consciously bring to mind and, well, declare out loud. So we're talking about things like knowing Paris is the capital of France, or recalling what you had for breakfast yesterday. It's also those super complex grammar rules you'd find in a textbook, or, like we just saw, being able to explain how an engine works. It's stuff you can state. Okay, so if that was the library, now we're heading into the workshop. This is where your brain keeps its procedural knowledge, or simply knowing how. This is the stuff that's built in, almost unconscious. It's knowledge that lives in your muscle memory just as much as it does in your head. And this is what's so interesting. Think about it. Can you really explain how you stay balanced on a bike? Not really, you just do it. Same with speaking your native language. You're not thinking about grammar, you're just talking. That sudden braking, pure procedural instinct. It's all about action, not explanation. So we've got these two totally separate systems. And that leads to the big question for anyone trying to learn anything new. How do you get information out of the library and into the workshop? Right. How does knowing that a certain chord on a guitar is a G major transform into your fingers just finding it instantly? How does that transition happen? That is the absolute core puzzle of learning a skill. Well, luckily for us, a cognitive scientist named John R. Anderson came up with a model for this. He called it ACT, which stands for Adaptive Control of Thought. And it basically gives us a roadmap, breaking that whole journey down into 3 clear stages.
Let's use that driving example again. Stage 1 is the declarative stage. You're in the car for the first time and you are thinking about everything. Okay, mirror, signal, check blind spot. It's slow and clunky. Then comes the associative stage. This is where you're trying to connect those rules to real-world actions. You stall the car, you brake a little too hard, you're making a ton of mistakes. But then finally, you hit the autonomous stage. Now you can drive down the highway, change lanes, and have a full conversation, all without even thinking about the mechanics of it. This skill is just there. It's automatic.
And that brings us to this really important quote from Anderson. Those mistakes you make in stage 2, they're not a sign you're failing. They are literally the sign that you are learning. Each mistake is your brain trying to build a bridge from the slow, clunky rule to a fast, smooth action. It's not just part of the process, it is the process. Okay, now let's take this whole framework and apply it to something I know a lot of people find really tough: learning a new language. I mean, have you ever had that experience? You do great in your French class. You know all the grammar rules, but the second you try to have a real conversation, it all just falls apart. Well, this model tells you exactly why that's happening. Just look at this breakdown. It's so clear. When you speak your native language, you're operating in that autonomous stage. It's fast, it's intuitive, it's easy. But when most of us are speaking a second language, we get stuck in the associative stage. Our brains are working overtime, trying to remember rules and apply them on the fly. That's why it feels so slow and effortful. We're stuck in that messy metal.
So that's the big question, isn't it? If so many of us get stuck in that awkward, frustrating middle stage, what's the secret? How do we break through and finally make a skill feel effortless and automatic?
You know, the answer, the actual mechanism that fuels this whole transformation from thinking to doing, it isn't some complex brain hack. It's actually something we've all known our entire lives. It's practice. That's it. It might sound almost too simple, but practice is the engine that drives this whole process. Every single time you do the thing, you are physically strengthening the neural pathways in your brain for that skill. Practice is literally the act of rewiring your brain, of taking a bunch of slow, separate steps and collapsing them into one fast, automatic action. There's just no other way to do it. So, I'll leave you with this question to think about. What skill are you working on right now? Is it an instrument, a language, coding? And where are you spending your time? Are you just reading more books about it, gathering more declarative knowledge? Or are you actually in the workshop, putting in the reps, and doing the practice that turns knowing that into knowing how?
So, if you like videos like this, make sure you subscribe to our channel, hit the bell icon to get notified every time we post a new video, and share this video with your classmates, teachers, and friends. Thank you all for your input. Let's keep this process efficient and on track.